The water doesn't move, not a ripple, not a sound, just the slow exhale of a swamp breathing in the dark. Somewhere beneath the tangled roots of the mangroves, something is dragging itself through the mud, low, deliberate, fearless. It moves like it owns this place, which is strange, because nothing owns this place. Not really. Not when the Royal Bengal tiger patrols these channels by night, when the king cobra coils silent in the leaf litter, when saltwater crocodiles lie motionless just beneath the surface, waiting, and yet here it is, 12 kilograms of muscle and rage, wading chest deep through brackish water, in the single most dangerous ecosystem on the Indian subcontinent. Locals call it a ghost. Scientists barely have data on it at all. It is the honey badger, the rattle, and almost nobody knows it lives here. This is not the dry, golden savanna you've seen before. This is the Sundarbans, a drowned forest. A maze of tidal rivers and salt-soaked roots stretching across the border of India and Bangladesh, and somewhere inside it, an animal built for the African desert has quietly rewritten its own rulebook to survive in water. To understand how strange this is, you need to understand what a honey badger is supposed to be. Across most of its range, the dry plains of Africa, the scrublands of Gujarat, the deserts of Iran, the rattle is a creature of dust. It digs, it burrows. It hunts scorpions and rodents under a relentless sun. Its entire body is engineered for arid ground, short, powerful legs built for excavation, thick claws made for tearing into hardened earth. None of that should work here. The Sundarbans is the largest mangrove forest on earth, 10,000 square kilometers of tidal swamp where the line between land and ocean barely exists. Twice a day, the tide swallows the forest floor. The ground a badger walked on at dawn can be 3 feet underwater by noon. There is no fixed earth to dig into. There is only mud, root and water shifting hour to hour. And yet, scattered records, a pug mark here, a torn open termite mound there, a single grainy camera trap photograph from a forest patrol confirm it. Honey badgers exist in the moist fringe forests bordering the Sundarbans, in parts of West Bengal and the wider Gangetic Delta. It is almost certainly the least documented honey badger population on the planet. Researchers have spent decades studying the tigers of this swamp. The rattle has slipped past almost everyone's notice. That isn't an accident, that's a survival strategy. This forest belongs to the Royal Bengal tiger, not metaphorically, biologically. Sundarbans tigers are unlike any others on the planet. They swim between islands, ambush from water, and have developed a reputation, documented in decades of forestry department records, for preying on humans more than any other tiger population alive. A rattle here does not get to be the apex predator. For the first time in its evolutionary story, it is not the most dangerous thing in the room, so it adapts the only way it can, by disappearing. Honey badgers are almost entirely nocturnal here, far more so than their African cousins. They move along the narrow, raised root systems of the mangroves' natural causeways above the waterline, timing their movements against the tidal clock with what looks to any observer like memory. Some researchers studying rattle cognition elsewhere have noted advanced spatial mapping and problem-solving behavior in the species. In a landscape that physically rearranges itself every 6 hours, that kind of memory isn't a luxury. It's the only thing standing between a badger and a drowning. When a tiger's pug mark crosses fresh in the mud, the badger doesn't fight for territory. It freezes, scents the air, and roots around it, sometimes taking a path nearly double the distance, just to avoid a single stretch of trail. This isn't cowardice, it's calculation. Even the most notoriously aggressive mammal in Africa knows precisely which fights are unwinnable. But there's one fight it doesn't avoid, and this is where the story gets strange. Honey badgers are famous, almost mythologized, for their resistance to snake venom. Studies on the African subspecies have identified mutations in the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, the very molecular doorway that neurotoxins use to shut down a nervous system. In rattles, that doorway has been structurally altered. The venom can knock at the door. It just can't get in the same way. That trait evolved against puff adders and cobras on the African plains. Here, in the Sundarbans, is being tested against something far worse. The king cobra, the longest venomous snake on earth, grows to lengths exceeding 5 meters in this region. Its venom isn't just neurotoxic. In the quantities a king cobra can deliver, it can kill an adult elephant. No mammal on the planet should casually challenge that. There is no confirmed scientific record anywhere of a rattle hunting a king cobra in the Sundarbans specifically. But the genetic toolkit for that fight already exists in its blood, built for a different snake, on a different continent for a different reason. If that confrontation has ever happened in these swamps, it happened in total silence, witnessed by no one, recorded by nothing but mud and consequence. That's the unsettling part of this story. Not what we know, what we don't. Diet is where the transformation becomes undeniable. A savanna rattle eats scorpions, rodents, the occasional reptile, and true to its name, honey and bee larvae, raided from hives with a thick, loose hide that famously shrugs off stings. Take that same animal and drop it into a tidal mangrove, and the entire menu disappears. There are no scorpion-rich drylands here. There is mud, root, and water. So the diet shifts to whatever the swamp actually offers: mud crabs prized from waterlogged burrows, mudskippers fish that breathe air and crawl onto land caught in the shallows, and the eggs of water monitor lizards dug from nests buried in the silt. Some field reports even suggest opportunistic foraging on stranded fish left behind by the retreating tide. This is a level of dietary flexibility most predators never need. A tiger needs deer. A leopard needs prey it can ambush from cover. A honey badger, it turns out, needs almost nothing specific at all, just whatever the ground beneath it happens to offer that day. It is, in the truest sense, one of the most adaptable carnivores ever documented, and the Sundarban's population may be the most extreme proof of that flexibility on record. It isn't only tigers and cobras the rattle has to navigate. The Sundarbans holds another specialist predator built for exactly this terrain, the fishing cat, a nocturnal hunter with partially webbed paws, evolved specifically to fish in these same channels. When a ground-based opportunist and a water-adapted ambush hunter compete for the same narrow strip of swamp, something has to give. Most encounters likely end the way most rattle encounters end everywhere on Earth, with the badger standing its ground, hissing, snapping, refusing to yield ground that, biologically, it has no business holding. Its reputation for sheer defensive aggression, a trait recorded across its entire range, from the Kalahari to the Western Ghats, appears to travel with it into the swamp unchanged. Some things about this animal, it seems, don't adapt. They don't need to. There's one more predator in these waters that no badger anywhere else on Earth has ever had to think about: the saltwater crocodile. The largest living reptile, capable of ambushing prey at the water's edge with almost no warning. A rattle wading through a tidal channel at low light isn't just risking a tiger encounter or a snake bite. It's crossing open water in the territory of an animal that can erupt from stillness into a kill in under a second. This is very simply the most dangerous landscape a honey badger occupies anywhere on the planet. Apex predator on land, apex predator in the water, lethal venom in the leaf litter. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, this once stubborn, fearless mammal built originally for dust and sun has carved out a way to survive. We've spent decades pointing cameras at the tigers of the Sundarbans, entire conservation programs and dire research careers built around understanding one apex predator in one extraordinary swamp, and the whole time moving silently beneath the same canopy, navigating the same tides, surviving the same impossible odds, has been an animal we almost completely failed to notice. Maybe that's the real lesson here. We tend to measure a landscape by its loudest, biggest, most dangerous resident. But sometimes the most remarkable survival story isn't the apex predator at the top. It's the 12-kilogram ghost that nobody thought to look for, quietly proving that toughness was never about size. It was always about refusing to stop adapting. If this is the kind of story you want more of, hit subscribe. WildLabX is just getting started.